Hunter, an Apache tracker, saved a pregnant white woman in the middle of the forest, and for that he was marked as a traitor by his own tribe. But no one imagined that her child carried a sacred mark, and the love between them awakened a prophecy forgotten for generations. This story will grip you until the very last second, and the ending will move you. If intense and unexpected love stories touch your heart, subscribe to this channel and comment what you thought. We always bring plots that move and surprise. Now let's continue. The Montana sun died slowly that March afternoon, staining the sky with a red that resembled blood on still water. Hunter Blackfoot walked alone along the banks of the Eagle River, his bare feet knowing every stone, every curve of the land that his ancestors called sacred long before the ranchers arrived with their fences and cattle. At 32, he carried on his shoulders the weight of being the last healer of his tribe, the only one who could still hear the whispers of the spirits on full moon nights. But Hunter wasn't fully accepted even by his own people. The son of a respected medicine woman and a white man he never knew, he grew up between two worlds without truly belonging to either. His brown eyes had a strange glow, almost golden, that many called a curse. Since adolescence, visions had haunted him, dreams of a light-haired woman wrapped in flames, carrying a child marked by the moon. The elders of the reservation said he had the gift and curse of seeing beyond the veil, but they also whispered that his mixed blood made him dangerous. That afternoon, while collecting medicinal herbs for the natural pharmacy he maintained on the outskirts of Riverdale, Hunter felt something different in the air. The wind changed direction, bringing a smell of fear and blood that made his stomach contract. Following the instinct inherited from his mother, he headed to the more remote region of the abandoned ranch, where the former owners used to dispose of what they didn't want found. That's where he saw her. Emma Wilson was lying near an embankment, her dress torn and stained with mud and blood, one hand instinctively protecting her rounded 7-month pregnant belly. Her blonde hair was stuck to her sweaty face, and she was murmuring incoherent words between English and something Hunter recognized as Apache, a language she shouldn't know. Emma Matthews Wilson. Hunter immediately knew who she was, even though he had never seen her in person. The daughter of retired Colonel James Matthews, a former military man who had bought land in Montana in the 90s to raise cattle and had become a powerful figure in the region. Emma had married Robert Wilson, a state representative involved in Native American land deals and mining, a man Hunter knew by reputation and deeply despised. But seeing her there, vulnerable and wounded, was like a punch to the chest. She was exactly the woman from his visions. Every feature of her face, every curve of her body, every moan of pain that escaped her lips was as familiar as a song he had always known. Hunter knelt beside her, his experienced hands checking her wounds. Emma opened her eyes, green as the forest after rain, and stared at him with an intensity that left him breathless. I know you, she whispered, her voice hoarse and weak. You were in my dreams. The man of the broken moon. He felt a shiver run down his spine. Broken moon. That's what his mother used to call him when he was a child, because of the crescent-shaped birthmark on his chest. Don't speak now, he said quietly, carrying her in his arms with an ease that surprised her. You're hurt. You need care. Emma should have protested, should have demanded that he take her to the hospital, to the police, to anywhere but the simple cabin where he was taking her. But something in his voice, something in the way his arms held her, made her surrender to this unexpected protection. Hunter's house was hidden among the trees, a 15-minute walk from the main road. It was small but welcoming, full of medicinal plants hanging from the ceiling, crystals and objects that Emma vaguely recognized from somewhere deep in her memory. He carefully laid her on the bed, lit some candles, and began preparing an herbal infusion. Who did this to you? He asked while cleaning the wounds on her arms. Emma closed her eyes, tears finally falling. My husband. No, it wasn't him directly, but it was because of him. I found some letters on his desk, documents about Native American land demarcation, about a gold mine in sacred territory. There were names, dates, amounts, and a strange symbol drawn by hand on all the pages. She stopped, her breathing becoming labored. When Robert got home and saw me with the papers, he was furious. He said I didn't understand business, that it wasn't my concern, but I saw the fear in his eyes. And that very night. What happened that night? Hunter insisted. His hands paused over the bandage he was applying. Hooded men broke into our house. They killed Robert in front of me, in cold blood, as if it was something that had been planned for a long time. I managed to escape through the back door, got the car, and drove non-stop until I couldn't anymore. I think I crashed. I don't quite remember how I got here. Hunter finished treating her wounds in silence, but his mind was racing. He knew stories about explorers who came to the region looking for gold on sacred lands, about corrupt politicians who made deals to demarcate or unmarked territories as convenient. But there was something more to this story, something that made his healer's instincts scream in alert. You said you found a symbol drawn on the documents. Can you describe it? Emma frowned, concentrating. It was like a moon cut in half by a spear, with 3 small circles around it, and underneath was written something like, Sanctuary of the Silenced Voices. Hunter's blood froze. Sanctuary of the Silenced Voices. His mother used to tell stories about this place, a sacred cave hidden in the depths of Montana, where the ancient shamans kept secrets that could both heal and destroy. According to the legends, whoever found the sanctuary would have access to a power capable of speaking with the dead, of curing any disease, of seeing the future with absolute clarity. But his mother also said that the sanctuary was protected by a curse. Only someone of the blood of the first guardians could unlock its secrets without awakening the wrath of the spirits. Emma, he said, his voice tense, I need you to tell me about the dreams you've been having. All of them. She looked at him in surprise. How do you know I've been having strange dreams? Because I have them too. And something tells me our dreams are connected. During the hours that followed, as night fell over Montana and the sounds of nature created a symphony around the small house, Emma told him about the visions that had haunted her since adolescence. Dreams of fire rituals, of chants in Apache that she couldn't understand but could repeat perfectly, of a golden-eyed child who called her mother in an ancestral language. And there's something else, she said, her voice almost a whisper. Since I became pregnant, the dreams have become more intense. Sometimes I wake up knowing things, names of medicinal plants I never studied, songs I never heard, stories of people who died decades ago. It's as if the pregnancy has awakened something in me. Hunter got up and went to an old chest in the corner of the room. From it, he took a necklace made of seeds and small animal bones that had belonged to his mother. My mother said this necklace belonged to the first shaman of our lineage, that it was made to recognize the person destined to carry the next guardian of the blood. He approached Emma and carefully placed the necklace around her neck. The moment the seeds touched her skin, they both felt an electric energy course through the air. The necklace began to glow with a soft, golden light that pulsed in the same rhythm as the heartbeat of the child in Emma's womb. My God, she whispered, her hands touching the necklace reverently. What's happening to us? Hunter knelt beside the bed, his eyes fixed on hers. I think you didn't arrive here by chance, Emma. I think all of this, your marriage, your husband's death, your escape, everything was orchestrated so that you would reach me, so that our daughter would be born. Our daughter? She repeated, her voice trembling. The child you carry. She's not just your husband's. I can feel it. There's something of my blood in her too, something that goes beyond biology. She is the child of my dreams, Emma, the guardian who will unite the two worlds. Emma should have thought it was madness. She should have run away from that house, from this man who spoke of impossible things as if they were absolutely natural. But deep in her heart, she knew he was right. She knew because she felt the same inexplicable connection, the same certainty that their destinies had been intertwined long before they met. That night they didn't make love, but they stayed awake until dawn, talking about the visions, about the dreams, about the child growing in Emma's womb with a strength that seemed supernatural. And when the sun rose, tinting the sky pink and gold, they both knew that their lives had changed forever. Hunter cooked a simple breakfast, but Emma ate as if she hadn't tasted food for days. The pregnancy left her constantly hungry, and there was something about the herbs he used as seasoning that made her feel stronger, more connected to the child. I need to go to town today, he said while washing the dishes. Get some things from the pharmacy, talk to some people. You can stay here, rest. No one will find you. No, Emma said, her voice firm. I'm going with you. I need to better understand what Robert was involved in. I need to know who ordered him killed and why. And I need to stay close to you." The last sentence came out almost as a confession, and they both felt the weight of the intimacy that was growing between them. Hunter approached her, his hands finding her face with a tenderness that surprised her. "Emma, are you sure? It won't be easy. There are people in town who don't like me, who don't trust healers. And if someone recognizes you—" "I'm sure," she whispered, covering his hands with hers. "For the first time in my life, I'm sure of something." And so, that March morning, Emma Wilson and Hunter Blackfoot began a journey that would take them far beyond what either could imagine. A journey that would awaken secrets buried for generations, that would put their lives in mortal danger, and that would reveal the true power of the child Emma carried. But for now, all that mattered was the feeling of his hands in hers, the silent promise of protection in his golden eyes, and the certainty that, whatever happened, they would face it together. The trip to Riverdale was tense and silent. Emma wore one of Hunter's straw hats to hide her face, and they were careful to avoid the main roads. His old pickup knew every hole and curve of those dirt roads, and Emma held onto the seat while observing the landscape that seemed too familiar for someone who had spent her entire life in Washington, D.C. and New York. "How do you know so much about the Native American lands in the region?" she asked when they stopped to refuel at an isolated gas station. Hunter turned off the engine and looked at her with those golden eyes that seemed to read her soul. "My mother was the most respected medicine woman of 3 different tribes. She taught me from a young age about the secrets of the land, about the sacred places that ranchers and politicians try to destroy for profit. When she died, 5 years ago, I inherited not only her knowledge but also the responsibility to protect these places." "How did she die?" The silence that followed was heavy as lead. Hunter gripped the steering wheel tightly before answering. "Officially, heart attack. But I know she was poisoned. 3 days before dying, she had a very strong vision. She said white men in suits would come looking for information about the sanctuary of the silenced voices, that they would offer money, threaten, and finally try to force her to reveal the location. She refused. The next day she started feeling sick." Emma felt a chill. "You think the same people who killed Robert?" "I'm certain," he said, starting the engine again. "And now they know you exist, that you are looking at your husband's documents. They won't give up easily." When they arrived in the center of Riverdale, Emma was impressed by the contrast. The tourist town she knew from postcards was very different from the raw reality of the peripheral streets where Hunter took her. They stopped at a small old pharmacy where a black man in his 60s greeted Hunter with a warm embrace. "Mr. Benjamin, this is Emma," Hunter said simply. "She needs our help." Benjamin observed Emma with smart and experienced eyes. "This is the woman from your dreams." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. "I can see her mark glowing." Emma unconsciously touched the necklace she still wore around her neck. "What mark?" "Child, you have a different aura," Benjamin explained as he led them to a room at the back of the pharmacy. "Since you entered here, the medicinal plants have become more vibrant. The crystals have started to vibrate. You're not an ordinary person." The back room was like a small temple. There were altars dedicated to various spiritual traditions, Native American symbols, all coexisting in harmony. Benjamin served a strong, bitter tea that made Emma grimace. "It's to strengthen the child," he explained, "and to open your spiritual channels. You'll need all the protection possible." "Why?" Emma asked, but it was Hunter who answered. "Because I discovered who's behind all this, and it's worse than we imagined." He took from his pocket some papers he had printed at an internet cafe nearby. "I spent the morning researching your husband's business. Emma, Robert wasn't just a corrupt representative. He was part of a secret society called the Order of the New Templars. They believe that certain sacred locations concentrate energies capable of giving temporal and spiritual power to those who know how to exploit them." Emma leafed through the papers, recognizing some names. "I know this man here, Colonel Braddock. He was a friend of my father's. And this one, Dr. Marcus Ferguson, he was the family doctor. Dr. Ferguson is a genetics specialist," Benjamin said grimly. "In recent years, he has been visiting Native American reservations offering free medical exams. But what he's really doing is collecting genetic material, looking for specific lineages. Specific lineages for what? Hunter stood up and began pacing back and forth, visibly agitated. To find people like us, Emma. People who carry the blood of the ancient guardians. They discovered that the sanctuary of the silenced voices can only be opened by someone who has this specific genetic marker. And more, they discovered that a child born of 2 carriers of this marker would have even greater powers. Emma felt the baby kick violently in her womb, as if reacting to Hunter's words. Are you saying they killed Robert to force me to look for you? That all of this was planned? Not exactly, Benjamin intervened. They killed Robert because he was getting greedy, wanting a larger share of the profits. But when they discovered that you were pregnant and had the visions, they realized you could be the key they were looking for. The problem is that you escaped before they could capture you. Emma stood up abruptly, knocking over the cup of tea. So they'll keep pursuing me? They'll try to take my daughter? Our daughter, Hunter corrected her, approaching her. And yes, they'll try. But we won't let them. He pulled her into his arms, and Emma felt a wave of warmth and protection that instantly calmed her. There was something in his touch that went beyond the physical, something that calmed not only her body but her soul. There's a place where we can be safe, Hunter said, caressing her hair. The First Light Cave. It's a sacred place that my mother showed me when I was a teenager. It's hidden in the Eagle Mountains, 2 hours from here. It has natural and spiritual protections that not even the most determined men can cross. But first, Benjamin said, going to an old cabinet, you need to properly protect yourselves. He took from the cabinet a leather bag full of strange objects. Necklaces, amulets, small bones engraved with symbols, and a flask with a dark, thick liquid. This is jaguar blood mixed with sacred herbs, he explained, showing the flask. You both need to drink it. It will fortify the connection between you and create a barrier of protection around the child. Emma made a face. Jaguar blood? That can't be safe for pregnancy. Child, Benjamin smiled. Your pregnancy is nothing normal. This baby is already protected by the spirits. What we need to do is ensure that you two are at the same spiritual level as she is. Hunter was the first to drink, and Emma saw his eyes glow even more golden for a few seconds. When it was her turn, she hesitated only a moment before emptying the flask. The liquid was bitter and burned her throat, but as soon as it went down, she felt an explosion of energy course through her entire body. Suddenly she could see Hunter not just with her eyes, but with something much deeper. She could feel his emotions, his memories, his fears. And most importantly, she could feel the love he already nurtured for her and the child, a love that went beyond reason or time spent together. Now you are linked, Benjamin said with satisfaction. Even separated, you'll be able to find each other, to protect each other mutually. They were preparing to leave when they heard the sound of cars approaching rapidly. Benjamin looked out the window and his expression changed drastically. 3 black cars, armed men. They've discovered where you are. Hunter pulled Emma by the hand. Is there a way out through the back? There is, but they may have surrounded the block, Benjamin said, already storing the sacred objects in a backpack. Take this. And remember, no matter what happens, don't allow them to separate you two. Your strength is in your union. They ran out through the back of the pharmacy, Emma struggling to keep up with Hunter's pace even with her heavy belly. They could hear voices shouting orders, doors being broken down, dogs barking. This way, Hunter whispered, pulling her into a narrow alley between 2 houses. I know a path that leads directly to the river. But when they turned the corner, they found 2 hooded men waiting for them. One of them pointed a gun at Emma. Very good, Mrs. Wilson. Finally. Doctor, Ferguson is very anxious to meet you. Hunter positioned himself in front of Emma, but the second man already had a gun pointed at him as well. Don't try anything heroic, the first man said. We just want the woman and the child. You can go, Indian. He comes with me, Emma said, her voice firm despite her fear. I'm not going anywhere without him. The man laughed. You're not in a position to make demands, ma'am. It was then that Emma felt something strange happen. The necklace around her neck began to heat up, and she heard a voice, not with her ears but directly in her mind, whispering in Apache. Instinctively, she repeated the words aloud. The effect was immediate and frightening. The two men began to shake violently, the guns falling from their hands. Their eyes rolled back, showing only the whites, and they began to speak in languages that neither of them knew. "Run!" Hunter shouted, pulling Emma by the arm. They ran through the narrow streets of the outskirts, Emma surprising herself with the endurance she was having despite her advanced pregnancy. Behind them, they could hear shouts of confusion and more voices approaching. They reached Hunter's pickup, and he started the engine with trembling hands. "Emma, what was that? What did you do to those men?" "I don't know," she gasped, her hand still holding the necklace. "I heard a voice in my head telling me what to say. It wasn't me, it was someone else." Hunter stepped hard on the accelerator, leaving the town behind in a cloud of dust. "It was your great-grandmother," he said after a few minutes. "I can feel her presence around you. She was a guardian too." "My great-grandmother died when I was a baby. How can you know this?" "Because now we're connected, Emma. I can see your memories, your lineage. Your maternal great-grandmother was named Sarah. She was mixed race, the daughter of an Englishman and a Cherokee woman, and she knew about the sanctuary." Emma felt tears streaming down her face. Since childhood, she had felt different, displaced, as if she didn't fully belong to the world in which she had grown up. Now everything was starting to make sense. "Hunter, I'm afraid," she admitted. "I don't know if I'm prepared for all this." He slowed down and stopped the car at the side of the road. Without saying anything, he leaned over and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss at first, almost hesitant, but it soon intensified with a passion that surprised them both. Emma felt as if she were drowning in sensations, as if every cell in her body was awakening to something that had always been dormant. When they separated, they were both breathless. "You're not alone," he said, touching her face with a tenderness that made her tremble. "You'll never be alone again. I promise." Emma covered his hand with hers. "And you? Aren't you afraid?" "I'm very afraid," he admitted. "But I also know that everything in my life has brought me to this moment, to you. And our daughter will be born safely. I guarantee it." They resumed the journey toward the Eagle Mountains, but now there was something different in the air between them. The kiss had broken a barrier, had admitted feelings that had been growing since the first look. Emma found herself observing Hunter's profile as he drove, admiring the strength in his hands, the concentration in his golden eyes. "Tell me about the first light cave," she asked, more to hear his voice than out of curiosity. "It's a place that has existed since before the first inhabitants arrived in the region," he said, his eyes fixed on the road. "My mother said it was there that the first shamans received knowledge from the spirits. There are cave paintings on the walls that show birth rituals, healing, passage between worlds. And there's a water source that never dries up, even in the most severe drought periods. And you think our daughter will be born there?" "I'm certain," he answered without hesitation. "All the signs point to it. And when she is born, Emma, the world will change. For better or worse, it will depend on how we manage to protect her in the first years of life." The sun was setting when they finally reached the foot of the mountains. Hunter hid the pickup among the trees and carried a backpack with basic supplies. The walk to the cave would be an hour, and he wanted to get there before dark. Emma followed Hunter along the steep trail, her hands intertwined with his. With each step, she felt as if she were walking toward her destiny, as if her entire previous life had been just a preparation for this moment. When they finally spotted the entrance to the cave, a natural opening in the rock covered by a curtain of vines and climbing plants, Emma felt the child kick with more force than ever. "She knows," Emma whispered. "Our daughter knows we've arrived home." Hunter pushed aside the vines, revealing the cave entrance illuminated by a soft, golden light that seemed to come from the stones themselves. And when they entered, Emma was certain that her previous life had definitely ended. Now, a new story was beginning, a story of love, power, and destiny that she still couldn't imagine how deep it would be. The first light cave was even more impressive inside than Emma could have imagined. The rocky walls glowed with a natural golden luminosity, as if thousands of small crystals were embedded in the stone. The high ceiling was lost in darkness, but she could hear the soft sound of water dripping somewhere distant. The air was pure and charged with an energy that made her skin tingle. "It's here," Hunter said, his voice echoing softly off the walls. This is the place where our daughter should be born." Emma walked slowly through the cave, her hand sliding along the walls covered with cave paintings. There were human figures dancing around fires, animals she didn't recognize, and symbols that seemed too familiar. At one specific wall, she stopped abruptly. "Hunter, come see this." He approached and was equally impressed. The painting showed a pregnant, light-haired woman being attended by a man with Native American features, while a child with bright eyes was born surrounded by luminous spirits. Around the scene was the same symbol that Emma had seen in Robert's documents, the moon split by the spear. "This was painted hundreds of years ago," Hunter murmured, gently touching the female figure. "How can it look so much like you?" Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. "It doesn't look like me, Hunter." "It is me. Somehow this has always been about us." They set up an improvised camp near the crystalline water source that ran through a crack in the rock. Hunter lit a small fire with dry wood he found at the cave entrance, and the light of the flames danced on the walls, giving life to the ancient paintings. Emma was sitting on a blanket, watching Hunter prepare a tea with the herbs that Benjamin had given them. There was something hypnotic about the way he moved, the precision of his gestures, the reverence with which he treated each ingredient. It was like watching an ancestral ritual. "You've been doing this your whole life," she said, "taking care of people." "My mother used to say I was born with a healer's hands," he replied, offering the cup to her, "but also with a warrior's heart. She said I would need both when my time came." "And you think your time has come?" Hunter sat down beside her, their bodies touching lightly. "I'm certain. Since I saw you on that embankment, I feel as if I finally know why I'm alive." Emma drank the tea in silence, feeling the warmth spread through her body. The child was quiet now, as if also absorbing the sacred energy of the place. When she finished, she turned to Hunter, studying his face in the firelight. "Can I ask you a personal question? After everything we've been through together, I think there's nothing personal between us anymore." He smiled. "Have you ever loved someone before?" The question caught Hunter by surprise. He was silent for a long moment, poking at the fire with a small stick. "There was a woman, a few years ago, Marina. She was a nurse at the Riverdale Hospital and sometimes helped me when I brought people from the reservation for treatment. She was intelligent, beautiful, determined. I thought it could work. What happened? She wanted me to stop being a healer. Said it was superstition, that I could use my knowledge of plants to work in the pharmaceutical industry, earn real money. She wanted me to cut my hair, wear normal clothes, become respectable." Emma felt a pang of jealousy that surprised her. "And you considered it?" "For about 3 months I really thought about it. I even cut my hair, bought some dress shirts. But every time I tried to ignore a vision or refuse to help someone who needed it, I felt as if I were betraying who I really was. One night I had a very strong vision. I saw Marina married to a doctor, living the life she wanted, but without me, and I realized she didn't really love me. She loved the idea of transforming me into someone else." "And how did you end it?" "She gave me an ultimatum. Either I chose her and a normal life, or I chose to continue being a savage, as she said. It was the easiest decision I ever made in my life." Emma reached out and touched his face gently. She was an idiot. Hunter laughed, covering her hand with his. "And you? Have you ever loved anyone besides Robert?" "Robert." Emma sighed. "I thought I loved Robert when I married him. He was charming, powerful, made me feel protected. My father approved completely, a successful representative, from an influential family. It seemed like the right choice. But I never felt truly seen by him. It was as if he had married an idea, the colonel's daughter, the perfect trophy wife for an ambitious politician. In recent years, especially after I became pregnant, I realized he treated me more like a valuable object than a person." Emma stopped, tears beginning to well up. "It's terrible to say this about someone who died, but when I saw those men shooting him, the first thing I felt wasn't sadness. It was relief, and then I felt guilty for feeling relief." Hunter pulled her into his arms, kissing her forehead softly. "You don't need to feel guilty for wanting to be truly loved." "And do you truly love me?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. Instead of answering with words, Hunter kissed her, but this time it was different from the kiss in the car. This was slow, deep, laden with a tenderness that made Emma feel as if she were melting. When they separated, he rested his forehead against hers. "Emma, I've loved you since before I knew you. I've loved you since you appeared in my dreams when I was 15. I love you for who you are, not for who I want you to be." Emma felt as if her heart would explode with happiness. "I love you too," she whispered, "and it scares me and completes me at the same time." They stayed embraced in silence, listening to the sounds of the cave, the dripping of water, the crackling of the fire, the distant echo of the wind outside. It was a peace that Emma had never experienced, a sensation of being exactly where she should be. But the peace was interrupted when Emma felt a strong pain in her lower abdomen. "Ouch!" she cried out, doubling over. "What is it?" Hunter was immediately alarmed. I think they're contractions," she gasped. "But it's too early. There are still almost 2 months left." Hunter helped her lie down on the blanket, his experienced hands feeling her belly. "The child is in position, but you're right, it's very early. Unless what? Unless she knows she needs to be born now. Sometimes special children choose their own moment." Emma felt another contraction, stronger than the first. "Hunter, I'm afraid. What if something goes wrong? What if she's born and can't survive?" "Hey, look at me," he said, holding her face between his hands. "You are stronger than you imagine. Our daughter is stronger than we imagine. And this place was made for this. Trust me." The following hours were the most intense of Emma's life. The contractions came in waves, each one stronger than the previous. Hunter remained by her side the entire time, massaging her back, whispering words of encouragement in Apache, keeping her hydrated with the crystalline water from the source. At one point, during a particularly strong contraction, Emma cried out in pain, and the paintings on the wall began to glow more intensely. Translucent spirits seemed to materialize around them. Native American women, ancient healers, all extending their hands toward Emma as if offering their strength. "Are you seeing this?" Emma gasped. "I am," Hunter replied, his voice full of reverence. "They've come to help. Your ancestors, mine, all the guardians who came before you." When the labor reached its peak, Emma felt as if she were being torn in half, but at the same time, there was an incredible energy coursing through her body, as if she were connected to all the women who had ever given birth in that sacred place. "I can see the head!" Hunter shouted, his voice mixing emotion and professional concentration. "One more push, Emma. You can do it." With a final effort that seemed to come from the depths of her soul, Emma pushed with all her strength. And then, suddenly, a baby's cry echoed through the cave. Hunter took the child in his arms, and both he and Emma were in absolute silence. The girl was perfect, but her eyes were of a brilliant gold that seemed to capture and reflect the light of the cave, and on her nape, clearly visible, was a crescent moon-shaped mark. "My God," Emma whispered, extending her arms to receive her daughter. She is exactly who she should be." Hunter finished, placing the baby in Emma's arms with infinite care. The moment the child touched Emma's chest, something extraordinary happened. The paintings on the walls began to move as if they were ancient films coming to life. They could see scenes of rituals, of sacred births, of special children growing up and becoming great spiritual leaders. And then a voice, not heard, but felt directly in the minds of both, spoke clearly. "Her name is Luna, like your great-grandmother. She is the bridge between worlds, the guardian who will unite what was separated. Protect her well, for there are forces that want to use her power for destructive purposes." Emma looked at Hunter, who was kneeling beside her with tears in his eyes. "We did it," she said, her voice full of emotion. "Our daughter was born." "Our daughter," he repeated, gently touching Luna's little face. "And now?" Before Emma could answer, they heard a sound that froze her blood. Helicopters approaching. "They found us," Hunter said, getting up quickly. "Emma, can you walk?" Emma was exhausted and still bleeding, but the adrenaline of danger made her strive to stand up. "I'll manage." "But how did they find us?" Hunter was quickly gathering the essential supplies when he noticed something terrible. The necklace that Emma wore, his mother's sacred necklace, was emitting a pulsing light that wasn't there before. "The necklace," he said, horror in his voice. "They put some kind of tracker in the necklace." Emma touched her chest, where the necklace still rested. But how? Benjamin said it was sacred. Benjamin, Hunter repeated, realization hitting like a punch. Emma, I think Benjamin betrayed us. The sound of the helicopters was getting louder, and now they could hear voices shouting orders outside. Emma held Luna against her chest, the maternal instinct already fierce and protective. Is there another way out of this cave? She asked. There is, but it's dangerous. An underground tunnel that comes out on the other side of the mountain. My mother showed me once, but said to never use it unless it was a matter of life and death. Well, Emma said, looking at the newborn daughter and then at the man she loved, I think we've reached that point. Hunter took an improvised torch from the fire and led Emma and Luna toward a narrow opening at the back of the cave that she hadn't even noticed before. Behind them, they could hear heavy boots entering the main cave. Look for signs of a recent fire, a voice shouted. They were here! Emma followed Hunter through the narrow tunnel, each step a test of endurance. Luna was quiet in her arms, as if she knew she needed to remain silent. The tunnel was dark and damp, and Emma had to constantly duck to avoid hitting her head on the low ceiling. After what seemed like hours but was probably only minutes, they finally saw a light ahead. They emerged from the tunnel into a small clearing on the other side of the mountain, where Hunter had hidden an old motorcycle at some earlier time. Do you know how to ride a motorcycle while carrying a baby? Emma asked, still breathless. I'll have to learn, Hunter replied, starting the engine with difficulty. Get on behind me and hold Luna very firmly. As the motorcycle descended the narrow mountain trail, Emma clung to Hunter with one arm and held her daughter with the other. The cold dawn wind cut across her face, but she didn't care. They had escaped, for now. Where are we going now? She shouted over the noise of the engine. To the only place where we can still be safe, he shouted back. To my grandfather's reservation. It's time for you to meet your new family. As the motorcycle cut through the darkness of the Montana dawn, Emma looked down at Luna's perfect little face. Her daughter, hers and Hunter's, slept peacefully, oblivious to the danger that surrounded them. But Emma could feel the latent power in the child, an energy that pulsed like a second heart. She didn't know what the future held for them, but of one thing she was certain. She would do anything to protect this special child, and with Hunter by her side, she felt that maybe, just maybe, they might have a chance to defeat the forces that wanted to use Luna for evil purposes. Dawn was breaking on the horizon, tinting the sky pink and gold, when Emma finally allowed her eyes to close. Leaning against Hunter's broad back, with Luna safe in her arms, she surrendered to the motorcycle's movement and the promises the new day might bring. But somewhere behind them, in the first light cave, men in suits were examining the cave paintings with an attention that wasn't archaeological, but predatory. And one of them, speaking into a radio, said just 5 words that sealed the fate of the small family in flight. The child is born. Activate the protocol. Hunter's grandfather's reservation was hidden in an almost inaccessible marshy region, where only those who knew the secret paths could reach. When they finally stopped the motorcycle at the entrance to the small community, the sun was already high in the sky. Emma was exhausted, still bleeding from the birth and with her body aching from the journey, but she held Luna with fierce determination. Elders and children came out of their houses to receive the visitors, but the silence that settled was heavy as lead. Emma could feel the curious and distrustful looks upon her. A white woman, clearly from another world, carrying a newborn baby. Grandfather Thunder, Hunter called, addressing a white-haired man with deep eyes who was slowly approaching. The elder stopped before them and observed Emma for a long moment before speaking. So she came, he said simply, the woman from your dreams, and brought the child. How did you know? Emma asked, surprised. Because I dreamed too, daughter, and because your great-grandmother Sarah was my cousin. Blood recognizes blood. Emma felt her legs weaken. Hunter held her quickly, concerned. She needs to rest, he said to his grandfather. The birth was just a few hours ago, and we had to flee immediately. Bring her to the healing house, Thunder instructed, and prepare the protection ceremony. If the Iron Men are after her, they will need more than a physical hiding place. The healing house was a circular construction made of wood and clay, with the roof covered in straw. Inside, there was a strong smell of medicinal herbs and natural incense. Emma was placed on a low bed covered with colorful fabrics, while the women of the reservation gathered around her. Let me see the child, asked an elderly woman with gentle eyes who introduced herself as Willow, the reservation's midwife. Emma hesitated for a moment before handing Luna to the woman. Willow examined the baby carefully, gently touching the crescent-shaped mark on the back of the child's neck. "It's true," she murmured, amazed. "She has the mark of the chosen ones. And the eyes. My God, how they shine." "Is it normal?" Emma asked anxiously. "Is she okay?" "She's more than okay, child. She's perfect. But what?" Willow returned Luna to Emma with care. "Children like her are rare. They're born perhaps once every 100 years. They have gifts that can be used to heal and protect, but can also be corrupted if they fall into the wrong hands." Hunter, who had gone out to talk with the men of the reservation, returned with a grim expression. "We have problems," he said. "The helicopters flew over the region this morning. Benjamin arrived by car an hour ago, saying he wanted to help, but my grandfather sensed lies in his words." "Where is he now?" Emma asked, instinctively pressing Luna against her chest. "Detained in the council house, but he didn't come alone. There are armed men positioned in the woods around the reservation. They're waiting for something." Thunder entered the house at that moment, carrying a staff adorned with bones and feathers. "It's time for the ceremony," he announced. "If we're going to protect the child, we need to do it now, before it's too late." "What kind of ceremony?" Emma asked. "A ceremony of spiritual concealment," Willow explained. "It will hide Luna's special aura from those who want to track her, but it has a price." "What price?" Hunter knelt beside the bed, taking Emma's hand. "Emma, the ceremony will work, but it will separate Luna from you for some time. She will have to be raised by the tribe until she is 7 years old, when she'll be strong enough to control her own powers." Emma felt as if her heart had been ripped from her chest. "No, absolutely not. I won't abandon my daughter." "It wouldn't be abandonment," Thunder said gently. "It would be protection. And you would stay here too, learning our ways, becoming one of us. And after the 7 years? After the 7 years, the 3 of you would be a family again. Luna would be safe. You would have learned to protect her properly, and Hunter would have fulfilled his destiny as guardian." Emma looked at Hunter, tears streaming down her face. "And you? What do you think about this?" "I think we don't have a choice," he said, his voice heavy with sadness. "If we don't do this, they will eventually find Luna. And when they find her—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. Emma knew exactly what would happen. Luna would be used, manipulated, transformed into a weapon in the hands of greedy, unscrupulous people. "There is another option," Thunder said softly. "But it's much more dangerous." "What option?" "Confront their leader directly. Find out what they really want and negotiate, but it would be a huge risk." It was then that they heard a sound that made everyone tense. Someone approaching the house. Hunter rose quickly, his hand instinctively going to the knife at his waist. "It's me," a familiar voice called from outside. "Benjamin, I need to talk to you." "He doesn't come in here," Emma said firmly. "Actually," Thunder said, "perhaps he should. It's time we knew the truth." Benjamin entered the house, escorted by 2 warriors from the reservation. His face showed signs of guilt and internal conflict. "Emma, Hunter, I can explain," he began. "Then explain," Hunter said coldly. "Explain why you put a tracker in my mother's sacred necklace." Benjamin sighed deeply. "Because they have my granddaughter. 3 months ago, men from the Order kidnapped my 5-year-old granddaughter. They said if I didn't help find you, they would kill her." Emma felt a tightness in her heart. "Benjamin, I didn't want to do this. You're like family to me. But she's all I have left in the world since my daughter died. When they approached me, I had no choice." "And now?" Hunter asked. "Where is your granddaughter?" "They brought her. She's in one of the cars outside. They said if I delivered your child, they would free mine." Thunder struck the staff on the ground once. "And do you believe them?" "No," Benjamin admitted. "I think they'll kill us all as soon as they get what they want." Emma stood up from the bed, even though she was still weak, and handed Luna to Willow. "Then let's give them what they want." "Emma, no," Hunter protested. "Not in the way you're thinking," she clarified, a fierce determination in her eyes. "Let's give them a chance to meet the true power they're trying to steal." Emma left the healing house with firm steps, followed by Hunter, Thunder, and the others. In the central clearing of the reservation, there were 5 men in black suits waiting, surrounded by Native American warriors armed with bows and spears. One of the men, clearly the leader, was holding a small, curly-haired child who was crying softly. "Mrs. Wilson," the man said with a cold smile. "Finally, I'm Dr. Marcus Ferguson. I believe you've heard of me." "I have," Emma replied, positioning herself in the center of the clearing. "And I know exactly what you want." "Excellent. That will make things easier. Hand over the child and all of you can continue your lives peacefully." Emma laughed, a sound that had nothing of humor in it. "Doctor, you have no idea what you're asking for. I'm asking for a child with special genes that can revolutionize our understanding of human psychic capabilities. Nothing more." "No," Emma said, her voice growing in power. "You're asking to meddle with forces you don't understand. You're asking to profane something sacred." She began to walk toward Dr. Ferguson, and something extraordinary happened. With each step she took, the necklace around her neck glowed more intensely. The plants around began to grow visibly. Flowers bloomed in seconds, and a palpable energy filled the air. What's happening?" one of the men stammered. "This," Emma said, stopping just 2 meters from Dr. Ferguson, "is what happens when you mess with a mother protecting her daughter." Suddenly Luna, still in Willow's arms, began to cry. But it wasn't a normal baby cry. It was a sound that seemed to come from another world, that made the trees sway without wind and birds fly in confused circles. "My God," Dr. Ferguson whispered, "she's even more powerful than we calculated." "And she hasn't even begun to show what she's capable of," Emma said. "Doctor, I'm going to make a proposal. Release Benjamin's granddaughter, leave here and never come back. In exchange, we forget you exist." "Or?" Emma smiled, and for the first time in her life she felt completely in control of her own destiny. "Or I let my daughter show you why the ancient shamans protected these secrets with their lives." Dr. Ferguson hesitated, clearly torn between greed and fear of the unknown. It was then that he made his fatal mistake. "Take the child," he shouted to his men. 2 of them advanced toward Willow, but they never reached her. Hunter moved like lightning, taking down the first with a precise blow. The second stopped when he found himself surrounded by warriors with spears pointed at his chest. "Last chance, Doctor," Emma said, and now her voice carried harmonies that didn't seem human. "Leave." "Never!" he shouted, pulling out a gun and pointing it at Emma. That's when Luna stopped crying. The silence that followed was absolute, as if the world itself had stopped breathing. And then, gradually, a golden light began to emanate from the baby. The light grew until it enveloped the entire clearing, and within it, figures began to materialize. They were the spirits of the ancient guardians, hundreds of them, forming a protective circle around the family. Emma recognized her great-grandmother Sarah among them, young and radiant, smiling at her with pride. Dr. Ferguson and his men were paralyzed with terror as the spirits began to approach them. One of the men dropped his weapon. Another began to cry. Dr. Ferguson himself was trembling violently. "Now you know," Emma said, her voice echoing as if it came from far away, "why some secrets must remain protected." The spirits didn't attack the men. Instead, they simply touched them, one by one. And at the moment of touch, each man seemed to see something that deeply terrified him. Emma later learned that they saw their own deaths, should they continue pursuing Luna. When the light finally diminished, Dr. Ferguson was on his knees, releasing Benjamin's granddaughter and raising his hands in surrender. We're leaving," he stammered, "and we'll never come back." "Swear by the spirits you just saw," Thunder ordered, approaching with the staff. "I swear, by everything that's sacred I swear." And Emma knew, with a certainty that came from the depths of her soul, that he was telling the truth. The encounter with the spiritual world had changed those men forever. After the men departed, leaving their cars and equipment behind, the reservation celebrated as if it were a festival. Emma finally got to properly embrace Luna, without fear, without rush, just absorbing the miracle of having her daughter safe and sound in her arms. "And now?" she asked Hunter as they watched the sunset from the porch of Thunder's house. "Now we live," he replied, kissing her forehead. "Luna will grow up knowing both worlds, protected but not isolated. You will learn our ways, and I will learn yours, And when she's ready, we'll teach her how to use her gifts to heal, not to destroy. Do you think they'll really leave us in peace? I think after what they saw today, they'll have nightmares for the rest of their lives if they even think about bothering us. Emma laughed, snuggling against Hunter's chest. You know, when I was little and my mother told me princess stories, I always thought they were silly for needing to be saved by princes. And now? Now I know that the best stories are those where the princess and the prince save each other. Hunter kissed her softly, and Luna, as if she knew she was witnessing an important moment, opened her golden eyes and stared at them with a wisdom that seemed much too old for a one-day-old baby. That night, Emma dreamed again. But this time, they weren't nightmares or disturbing visions. She dreamed of Luna growing up strong and wise, mediating between the modern world and the spiritual world. She dreamed of herself and Hunter growing old together, their hands always intertwined, their love deepening with each passing year. And when she woke the next morning, with Hunter by her side and Luna sleeping peacefully in a cradle made by the reservation's artisans, Emma knew it hadn't just been a dream. It had been a promise. 3 years later, Emma Blackfoot, she had officially adopted Hunter's surname, was sitting on the porch of their house on the reservation, watching a golden-haired child run among the other children, speaking fluently in English and Apache, healing small wounds of friends with just a touch of her little hands. Hunter approached from behind, wrapping her in his arms and kissing her neck. "Regret anything?" he asked. Emma turned in his arms, looking at the man who had transformed her life into an adventure of love and purpose. "Nothing," she said, sealing her answer with a kiss that carried all the love and gratitude she felt. "Absolutely nothing." And outside, Luna raised her head from the group of children, smiled at her parents, and waved with a hand still small, but already full of promises of an extraordinary future. The Montana wilderness continued its eternal dance between water and land, between the sacred and the everyday, and in a small reservation hidden among rivers and forests, a very special family lived proof that true love can overcome any obstacle, and that some happy endings are achieved not by chance, but by courage, determination, and faith in the transformative power of love.